And Mayor Holt, let's talk about Oklahoma, because I know highway safety is a major issue in Oklahoma, as it is in a lot of rural areas. You have a lot of those narrow two-lane roads that can be really dangerous, especially if they fall into disrepair. And in preparing to speak with you, I looked up the data, and rural roads and highways account for nearly 60% of all fatalities and serious crashes in Oklahoma. So I imagine that's one of the reasons why you see this as a real urgent imperative.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously some really important things specifically for Oklahoma City that I'm passionate about, but I can absolutely see as well the benefits for the whole state of Oklahoma, rural and urban. And I think it's really important to point out that the proposal for the bipartisan infrastructure framework has a ton of road and bridges dollars, including the currently expected highway funding that comes every year, but also more and more on top of that. And yes, that's critical infrastructure. That is something that should be nonpartisan, not just bipartisan.
Yeah. Well, about that, I mean, if this infrastructure bill ends up being passed with just Democratic votes alone, Mayor Holt, would you still support it? I mean, do you care how it gets done, whether it's bipartisan or if it's just Democrats only?
Well, I think there's such an opportunity here to have a bipartisan package, and obviously we're already a little bit down the road, no pun intended, in that we've got some support, some bipartisan support in the U.S. Senate, and I think that can be built upon if we continue to take this approach that this president has advocated for so far, which is a bipartisan approach, which is compromise. We do that a lot as mayors, and I'm glad to see Washington doing it on this package. And I think that's why we're all getting involved in this. We think that this is the closest we've ever been over the last decade of talking about infrastructure to get something done. It's fantastic that it can be bipartisan. I mean, obviously in Oklahoma City, we want infrastructure, however Congress has to pass it. But I think if it's bipartisan, that's a great statement for our country, and it certainly would make everybody feel really good and much better about this. But however it happens, there's some critical stuff in here, transit, roads and bridges, as you talked about, that'll do so much good for the people of Oklahoma City.
Yeah. Well, Mayor Whaley, let's talk about Dayton, because Dayton had a long